History is often controlled by those who are in power. And what better country to highlight this than ours? The history of India, although abundant, is grossly underrepresented. In this video, we would like to take you through one such story of India's greatest forgotten king, Lalitaditya Muktapida of Kashmir. Sadly, our school history books don't even touch on this great ruler's achievements. Worry not, for we have, among us, some conclusive historical records that shed ample light on this great king's conquests and achievements. Our primary reference is one of the greatest records of history written in the Indian subcontinent, Kalhana's Rajatarangini, translated as the River of Kings, specifically M.A. Stein's translation, which takes Professor Buller's research as its starting point. There is another, earlier translation made by Mr. Yogesh Dutt in the late 19th century, but that was based exclusively on the corrupt text of the Calcutta edition of 1835 by Mr. Moorcroft that was prepared without referencing any Kashmiri sources of information, which is indispensable for the correct comprehension of Kalhana's narrative. We also take some critical information from Al-Biruni's book about India to keep things unbiased. The European scholars were especially interested in Kalhana's account of Kashmir history due to the appearance of strict chronology, which is unlike any other Sanskrit literature with respect to the exact dates it furnishes. Another point to note is that Kalhana furnishes these exact dates from his time onwards. For the preceding periods, there are some less significant periods missing. One such discrepancy shows up when King Ranaditya's reign is shown as 300 years. The reason for this being that Kalhana tried not to tamper with the yugas and dates and directly use them as he found them in the records. There are then some years between end of Ranaditya's rule and the accession of the first Karkota king, Dhar missing. The Karkota dynasty marks a significant period of Indian historical records. This is when we are familiarized with one of the greatest kings India has ever seen. How the Karkota dynasty started has a very interesting story behind it. This is an important dynasty in terms of Kalhana's narrative, as the chronology, including coins, foreign notices, become more reliable. The details are even corroborated by Chinese sources based on Huan Sang's visit during the reign of the first king of this dynasty, Dhar. He was a man of humble origins, connected by marriage with the preceding royal family, the Gonandas. The last king of that dynasty, Lalitaditya, was foretold that his son-in-law would be destined to succeed him. Having no male successor, Lalitaditya hoped to forestall this by marrying his daughter to a small official. Yes, you are right. It is Dhar. He was, however, believed to have been the offspring of the Naga Karkota, a deity worshipped at several springs in Kashmir. By his judicious conduct, this lowly official rose in favor of his royal father-in-law and won the attachment of the minister Kanka, whom he discovered guilty of a love intrigue with his wife, Anangaleka. After Lalitaditya's death, Kanka, out of gratitude, established Dhar on the throne. The grandson of this king, Lalitaditya Muktapida, has by far been one of the most significant rulers in the history of India. There are enough foreign sources to back up Kalhana's account of this great king. He is said to have reigned from 699 to 736 AD, and most of his reign passed in expeditions abroad. His first conquering attempt was directed at Yashovarman, the ruler of Kannauj. Yashovarman is said to have made a peaceful submission to Lalitaditya, but subsequently incurred his wrath by the pretension shown in the course of the treaty negotiations. After Yashovarman's defeat, Lalitaditya is said to have started on a march of triumphant conquest around the whole of India, which was the first of its kind at that time. He is said to have conquered territories from Bengal and Orissa in the east to Kathiawad and the Cambodjas in the west, which is the current Afghanistan. There are references Kalhana makes to Sahi princes who held court offices under Lalitaditya. This was the title applied to the family of Turkish origin, which ruled in Kabul Valley in Gandhara. This shows that they would have acknowledged the suzerainty of a powerful ruler from Kashmir. The famous historian Al-Biruni records that Kashmiris also celebrated annually a festival in commemoration of Mutai, which is what they called Lalitaditya Muktapida for his victory over the Turks. Tibetans figure next in his list of conquests. The mighty Tibetan Empire was a great foe. Lalitaditya is said to have utilized Yashovarman's forces in defeating the Bhattas, or the Tibetans, comprehensively. In his westward expansion, he even conquered the adjacent hill tribes called Dhars. Apart from his expeditions abroad, Lalitaditya also enjoyed great fame as a builder. The splendid Sun Temple of Martand, despite being in ruins, is still the most striking object of ancient Hindu architecture in this part of the world. Even in its present state of decay and neglect, it commands admiration both by its imposing dimensions and the beauty of its architectural design and decoration. An even more impressive proof of the grand scale on which Lalitaditya's building operations were conducted is evident by the remains marking the site of the town of Parihaspura, the present Parspor, where the king built a series of great temples. A quick visit to this site sufficiently shows that Kalhana's account of its magnificence was not exaggerated. Unfortunately, in the late 14th century, Sikandar Shah Mir, under whose rule the Hindus were put to the sword by the thousands, went on a vandalistic madness and destroyed the great temples at Martan, Vijayaswari, Surshwari, as well as many other architecture marvels in Parihaspura. No wonder he was widely known as Buthshikan, meaning Sikandar the iconoclast. Numerous shrines and sacred images of Buddhist deities were erected during Lalitaditya's reign. A Chinese pilgrim, Yukong, visited Kashmir a few years after Lalitaditya's death and found the Buddhist cult in a very flourishing condition and the number of stupas and viharas considerable. There are numerous other accounts of the king's generosity towards Buddhists, which throws lights on the religion conditions of Kashmir at that time of tolerance and coexistence. There are various accounts of how Lalitaditya's reign came to an end, but all of them agree in connecting it with one expedition to a distant northern region. One version says he perished through excessive snow in a country called Aryanaka, which cannot be located exactly. Another version made him end his life by suicide to escape being captured when separated from his army and blocked on a difficult mountain route. Other accounts were satisfied in letting the king and his army retire to the region of the immortals in the farthest north. His end seems to have the same legendary coloring as the rest of his reign. Undoubtedly, one of the greatest kings India ever had. In the annals of history, remembered by a few, forgotten by many, and revived now. In the final conquest, he had various adventures with demons, which Kubera and the other guardians sent forth to test his power. Even in those lands, which, indeed, to this day have not been seen even by the rays of the sun, the command of this king met with no resistance. And when it had been long without news, the messenger reported, "Thus the Lord speaks to you. What a delusion is this, that people like you should expect my return after I have reached this country. What task do you see for me, that I should return to my kingdom and abandon the winning of new victories every day?